on today's StoryBeat.
Ask yourself this question. Is this gig, is this move, is this in alignment with what I think I'm here to do? And is it in the direction of my vision?
This is StoryBeat with Steve Cuden, a podcast for the creative mind. StoryBeat explores how masters of creativity develop and produce brilliant works that people everywhere love and admire. So join us as we discover how talented creators find success in the worlds of imagination and entertainment. Here now is your host, Steve Cuden.
Thanks for joining us on StoryBeat. We're coming to you from the Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My guest today, the brilliant singer-songwriter Megon McDonough, has been performing around the United States for more than 4 decades on stages as varied as Carnegie Hall, the Birchmere, Wolf Trap, and more. Megon wrote her first song at the age of 11 and landed her first record deal by the time she was 14 after winning a local big break talent contest sponsored by local radio station WLS. The label was Wooden Nickel, for which she released 4 albums between 1972 and 1974. She's gone on to release a total of 15 solo albums. By age 17, Megon was the opening act for John Denver at Carnegie Hall. She has also opened for acts like Steve Martin and Harry Chapin. Megon played Patsy Cline in the musical Always Patsy Cline. She wrote and performed a one-woman cabaret show called An Interesting Bunch of Gals, in which she pays tribute to 8 artists who influenced her, including Edith Piaf, Billie Holiday, and Joni Mitchell. Megon is perhaps best known for being an inaugural member of the group The Four Bitchin' Babes. She's also known for delighting audiences with her mixture of heartfelt and humorous songs, and she's toured with her show dedicated to the ones I love, great women singers of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, honoring the greatest female singers of a generation. For more, please check out megon.com. And please be sure to stick around at the end of today's show for a special treat. Megon has lent us the title track off of her CD, Breathe. So for all those reasons and many more, I'm truly delighted to welcome one of the best singer-songwriters working today, Megon McDonough. Megon, thanks for joining me on StoryBeat.
Steve, I am so happy to be here, and what a delightful introduction. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, it was my pleasure, and I'm so glad you're with me today. So, okay, let's go back in time. You've been performing for a little while now. How did all this musical magic begin? When did you first say to yourself, I might want to be a singer?
Oh my gosh, I remember the day and the moment, being the 7th of 9 kids.
Wow.
And, with a name like Mary, Megan, Margaret McDonough. It is no mystery that, yes, I was raised Catholic, which I like to think explains my intense interest in Buddhism and attraction to Jewish men. But so there were a lot of us. We weren't all home at once. It's kind of a funny story, but there was 17 years between families. My parents had 3 boys, got married during the Depression, then 17 years, no pregnancies due to, some things that needed correcting. And then, my mom had an operation, and boom, boom, 6 more kids.
Wow.
My parents were both born under the sign of Gemini. So it was like having 4 parents. And we were always encouraged to be creative, to sing. My mom took us to dance class. She was an actress and kind of a local celebrity in my little town in Illinois, Crystal Lake.
Right.
And so we were exposed to the theater. My parents started a theater in Crystal Lake called Twilight Ridge, which was, Steve, it was a tent. It was like a, big circus tent. And I remember the first play I saw, I was little, The Importance of Being Earnest.
Right. And
my dad was the, producer, and my mom was in it. And, it was community theater. But really, Crystal Lake at that time, it was about 50 miles outside of Chicago. And it was a sort of cottage town, people, summer cottage town. But it was a little pocket of really creative, bright people,
Artistic types.
artistic community. So I loved singing right from the get-go, and would hear my mom singing. My mom was a singer and toured with the USO, and she was always singing. There was always music, and we were always like running in the woods and making stuff up and dancing and singing, and which was also a way to get some attention.
Sure. So you grew up in a really creative family. It almost sounds like you grew up in an Andy Hardy movie.
Yeah, exactly. With Cuddy Sark as a central character. And I was in the basement of our house, and the TV was on in the corner, but I was practicing. I was in my little leotard and tap shoes. I was 5, and I was practicing "All I Want for Christmas Is My 2 Front Teeth" that I was going to sing at the St. Thomas the Apostle Christmas pageant. And all of a sudden I hear this sound, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, it's the Woody Woodpecker show. And honestly, I don't know why, Steve, but I was like, what is that? The sound, and I looked it up, of course, later, years ago. Grace Stafford was the voice of Woody Woodpecker and sang the theme song. And Howard Lance, I think, was the creator of Woody Woodpecker.
Walter Lance.
Walter Lance, thank you. Walter Lance, and she was married to Walter Lance, and he was looking for, I love this story. He was looking for the voice of Woody, and she anonymously submitted her tape. I don't know how that, I love the romance of that, that he didn't know it was her. But he hired her to be the voice of Woody, and she never wanted her name in the credits because she didn't want boys and girls to be disappointed that Woody's voice was a girl.
Oh, wow.
But anyway,
different day and age.
Right? That's a long way around that. I was sure it was my mom, almost, in a way, because it was that sort of 40s, 50s romantic, clear, right, lighthearted. And from that moment on, it was like Woody himself was sort of annoying to me, but there was something that pulled me in. It was in the old days of black and white, and he was on Walter Lance's desk, and they figured out how to do that, and he was making Walter Lawrence laugh. And I thought, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to sing and be funny.
And so that is what you've done. But so you intentionally set out to be that.
I think so. I think that's where it started, in that moment of, oh, what is that? And how do I get there? It was the same when I was 9 or 10 and saw the Beatles. Everything else faded from the room. It was that February night, the Ed Sullivan show is on, and I'm, on my tummy, and I'm there's nothing else. There's only the Beatles.
And so what did you do then to learn how to do that? What did you do to train to be funny and a singer?
Right. So I would do the cat for my family. I would imitate the neighborhood tomcat. Right. Peals of laughter. Meg, do the cat. Do the cat. Okay. So Meg would do the cat, and I would imitate this cat. They would laugh. Steve, I'm in. I'm totally 100% in, and it was just, it was my calling. And
well,
then
it's a kind of drug.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? We've heard many times, so many comics, had trauma and right. That's why they went into it. Absolutely. Absolutely. It was the most healing addiction in a way. And then we'll talk maybe a little bit later about how that can flip,
Sure.
how it can go from heart to head.
Well, that's, the story about most clowns and comedians, like you say, come from some kind of trauma or sadness or whatever that would be, and turn that around and make comedy out of it. And
Exactly.
and most comedy, I mean, the old phrase is comedy is tragedy plus time.
Right.
So there you go. So when I listen to you sing, I can tell that it means something to you. You have passion about it. And so how much would you say that passion factors into what you do?
90%.
90%. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there are singers and then there are singers. Tony Bennett is like born to the breed.
Right.
Yeah, I'm also born under the sign of Scorpio, and they say we're very passionate about everything, which
Yeah.
can be annoying.
Well, it might be annoying, but it actually has that sting to it. That's why you're Scorpios.
Yes.
There's a little bit of Zotz to that.
Well said. Zotz.
I don't get to work the word Zotz in that often. So
I love it. I love it. It's clearly Yiddish. Yes.
Zotz. I don't know if Zotz is a Yiddish word, but it certainly sounds like it. So let's just say it for the sake of the argument that
Zotz.
it is.
I think it'd be a great name for a band.
It very well might be a Yiddish word. So for many, music is a calling. Did it feel like a calling to you? Like you had to do it? It was your thing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I often say, Ringo saved me from a life in the convent, because at the time I loved the Beatles, the nuns were kind of starting to recruit me. I was asked almost on a daily basis, who here wants to be a priest or a nun? And I was sure, if I didn't raise my hand, it would go on my permanent record. Mary didn't raise her hand. We got to work on her. And also the nuns wouldn't call me Megan because it wasn't a saint's name.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
but Mary Margaret.
Yeah, Mary, right. So my parents had to give me the first name of Mary. So my name is Mary Megan Margaret.
Oh, Mary Megan Margaret. Got it.
Yeah. Anyway, and I was sure that I probably should want to be a nun, and I probably would be a nun. And then I saw the Beatles, and I'm telling you, I was not going to be a nun. I was going to marry Ringo.
Well, that didn't work out so well, but the rest of it did. So at what moment did you then think to yourself, I can do this and make money at it? I can become a professional.
I wish I'd had that thought that I can do this and make money at it. I begged my parents daily for a guitar after I saw the Beatles. I hocked their Chinik like you can't believe guitar. All I want is guitar. And I got the guitar the following Christmas. It was
How old?
I was 11.
And that's when you started to write songs.
Yep. I taped my fingers so I could keep playing. It was an obsession. I made stuff up. I just made up chords.
So you had no training on it. You just started playing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's a natural gift. Not everybody can do that. I've spoken to many people on this show who just pick it up. They just do it.
Right. And I'm grateful every day. My best friend Sid, we had a folk duo. She played baritone ukulele, and then she got a guitar. And then because we were both Beatle maniacs, she got a guitar, and I thought, oh, I gotta get a guitar now. Sid's got a guitar. I need a guitar. She taught me a couple chords before moving away, and I took it everywhere. I slept with it. I kissed it. I'm telling you, it just fell apart. It came unglued about 6 months later because it was this cheap K guitar, but it was golden to me. I wish I still had it, but Mr. Blease, God love him, at the music store in Crystal Lake where I bought it, glued it back together for me, and I kept playing, and then I started taking it everywhere, and everybody go, there goes McDonough with her guitar, and I would play it your dinner party, or Sid and I would, sing for your guests, or any chance I got, I would play and sing.
So and my assumption is, growing up in a family that was theatrical to begin with, you had no trepidations about standing up in front of people and performing.
Nope.
It was in your blood already.
Yep. I had already been doing the cat for years.
Right. So this notion of I'm now going to sing in front of people, that didn't mean anything to you in terms of nervousness, or can't do this or anything like that.
Right. And that comes from, I think that comes from love.
Love of the music.
Love of the music, and really loving people in a way of that would be maybe my love language.
Well, I think it's a love language of lots of people.
Right.
All right. So now the Beatles, which for my money, I agree with you. They're the greatest rock and roll band ever, and certainly maybe arguably the greatest songwriters of all time, from my perspective. But there had to have been others. Who else inspired you back then?
Sid recommended the Pete Seeger's Guitar Guide. Pete Seeger's.
Right.
So I got way into folk music, because really I knew, though I wanted to be in the Beatles in a way, I knew that I wasn't going to get in the Beatles. That was probably a given.
You and no one else, except Yoko, I guess.
Except Yoko, or maybe George Martin being the fifth Beatle, but
yes.
But I wanted to do that. I wanted to write songs, and the traumatic events that followed that Christmas guitar was that next summer, my father died suddenly. And then 3 months later, my oldest sister was killed in a car accident.
Oh my goodness.
And so.
And how old were you then? 11, 12?
11. Yeah.
Still 11.
Still 11.
That's a lot to process at 11.
Yeah. Too much. And I think too much responsibility then falls to keep the last adult standing, and do everything you can to be okay. But I had the gift of the music.
So you moved into that as your solace.
Did a swan dive into the music. Just poured everything into holding that guitar and just pouring everything, even rocking, even physically rocking with it. It was incredibly healing. And, the veil was pierced, and I got an insight into life is, wow, this is a big decision time.
The lack of fairness of life was ever present.
It was just incredible. And talk about angry. Also, a place for all of it to go was in the writing, the poetry, the playing, the singing, not so much singing for a little while and then getting back into it, because really my mom was lost, and especially financially. It was 1965. Talk about a different time.
So I want to go back a second. The poetry, this is poetry you're writing, or other people's poetry?
Right. This is poetry I'm writing, and Khalil Gibran's Prophet is on the table. Leaves of Grass is available. So, because my parents were sort of, well, they were so creative, but also hip, and
well, they were artists. They were creative people.
Yes. Though my father was, had an electronics firm in the city, and he would take the commuter to work, and
but clearly had an artistic bent and an interest in it. So that makes sense that there would be that sort of material around.
Right.
They weren't just, technical people. They were artistic.
Right.
Well,
so I got a babysitting job, but I was first like sort of propelled into performing. I started getting gigs, and then I I won the contest. I was writing songs. I won the WLS in Chicago Big Break Radio Contest. And I was up against bands and other singers, and it was at Orchestra Hall. And I won first place. I was a folk singer. The prizes were the recording contract with Mercury Records, Ludwig drums. I won Ludwig drums like Ringo's. I was gloppened. A big Gibson amp, a guitar. I mean,
Was it an electric guitar?
no, it was a 12-string guitar, an Echo 12-string. It was amazing. And that was like the beginning of, here we go.
And so,
You are
okay, so you've been, after you started to do that, you had got this record deal, you actually cut a record, which is I'm sure a
Yes,
huge
right.
deal.
A 45.
A 45, but I'm saying at that time, at your age, that had to have been a very big deal.
At Universal Studios
At Universal Studios
in Chicago. Yeah.
in Chicago. And okay, so as you're going along, at what point do you think to yourself, this is something I can do for my life? Is there a juncture then or years later when you thought this is something I can do?
No, it was just, this is what I'm here to do. Or this is what I wish I had, in a way. I wish there had been that time. I also wish there had been someone to say, do you want to do this? Do you want to, I really don't feel like I had a choice. There were,
Well, that's important that you say that you felt like you had no choice. I think most great artists don't have a choice.
Right.
Which reminds me, one of my favorite writers is Stephen King, and he gets asked the question, why, you have all these talents, why do you write this material, this horror material? And his response is, what makes you think I have a choice? And that's what you're saying. You just don't, that's what you do.
Exactly.
I totally understand. Okay, so I want to talk about performance and how you get into performance for a moment. Is there a genre of songs? I know you do various genres. You're good all over the map a little bit. Are there songs that most appeal to you? Is there something that if I said you really are only going to be able to sing this, would there be a genre that you would always go to?
I'm astonishing myself when I tell you this answer. I think it would be country music.
Interesting.
I love Broadway. I love jazz standards. Those are really soulful for me, though, heart and soul music. The craft of country songwriting. Now I'm talking about The House That Built Me, that Miranda Lambert made, is so well crafted, and it's so, but it appeals to me because, I loved the house I grew up in and sort of lost the house I grew up in.
Right.
So any songs that go right to that place, it's like, boom, it's like, oh yeah, this is so satisfying. Sondheim, so satisfying.
Deep into the heart.
Deep into the heart, and so tidy, so very tidy and
well constructed.
Well constructed, well crafted, beautiful. I love the language. And I love the language. And when the language and the music marry and it's perfect like that, I don't know, it makes everything okay.
Well, you're a songwriter too. You know what it's like to write a song. Sometimes things come out of you and flow, and sometimes it's days and days of batting your head against the wall, right?
Right. And do you have that experience also, right?
Oh, sure. Many times. many times. But when it comes together, it's glorious.
It's a little click, or it's a little, or your heart sits down. That's an African expression. My heart sat down. It's like, and this, I love that, this feeling of, I remember writing a song called Oh Mary, Just a Girl, about how, the Blessed Mother was, I think, maybe 14 when she had Jesus. You know, here she is. She's on the desert with Joseph, and she's just a girl. And I had never had this experience before, since I started crying as I was writing. I don't know if you've ever had that experience.
That I've never had.
And I don't consider myself a religious person,
Right.
but there are aspects of the religion I was raised in that are quite beautiful. I love beauty, you know.
Well, spirituality.
Yeah, exactly. That, and the story was sort of a download. The story was sort of like a, have you ever had that experience?
Where it just sort of just drops in.
Yes.
Yes, I've certainly had that, where I've had the experience where it just flows out, and I've had the experience where nothing comes and you have to work at it and work and work it. And I've had that experience where you working and you're working and you don't think you're ever going to solve the problem. And then one word turns the whole thing and you go, oh, there it is. And it all falls into place.
That is such a mystical thing, man.
Oh, well, totally. Do you feel like many artists do, and many creative people, not just artists, but scientists and all sorts of creative people, do you feel like the creativity that you have, that you express, whether it's as a writer or a singer or whatever, is coming through you, that you're a vessel for it rather than you're the creator of it?
Yes. And that's the distinction between, I'm pretty cool, which is a trap, which as soon as I think I'm doing it, it eludes me.
Sure. Well, that I would say that that's true for a lot of really successful creative people.
Right.
And I hear that repeatedly on this show and in the world, that really creative people frequently feel like they're not doing it. Something is coming through them.
Without a doubt.
And so you have that experience as well. All right. Aside from performing, is there anything you do to develop your singing voice?
Breath.
Man. What does that mean? So how do you do that?
When I teach voice, I say, you're going to be so bored with the first lesson or two.
Wax on, wax off.
All we're going to talk about is how you're breathing. First thing to go whenever we're nervous, and I tell this especially to performers, is like, first thing to go is your breath. You stop. You just stop, because all your energy is just be in your feet, man. As Uta Hagen said, just be in the feet of your character, be in your feet, be in your body. And that takes such focus. So I would say breath first.
And like actors, one of the keys to great acting, at least as I understand it, is being able to relax.
And slow down. I don't know if you've had this experience, but it's like, I've heard myself in performance, I'm talking entirely too fast. I'm so jazzed, I'm so adrenalized, I'm so ramped up. I'm like, oh, if I could go back and just say, slow down.
Well, the only way that you really get there, I think, if that's your nature, and I have a similar nature where I talk too fast, I think the only way that you actually get to the point that you're talking about is by doing a lot of it, to where there's a second nature aspect to it.
No doubt, we've both put in our 10,000 hours. Would you say?
Oh, easily.
And I was telling you before this, last night I went to go see a band who's playing a club that I'm going to play next week.
Right.
And they're young, they're a family band. Three members of a family, and their guitar player was the only outsider. It was so sweet. It was so sweet. I loved it, because I think that might be coming back, that young people would have a place to play. Their music was good, and it was so right now. And they were so perfectly young. I mean, I think I told you, I think the lead singer was, 17 or 18. Her sister, the songwriter who sang backup, was 21. Her brother on keyboards was 20. The guitar player was 19. It's just like, oh, I think we might be okay in the world. The kids are still doing this. They're still writing songs. They're still, but I noticed that there were things they were doing that that were perfect for right now, and they can't learn any other way by just constantly doing it. Just keep showing up. The yoga teachers, the yogis say, just show up at the mat, just keep showing up at the mat, just
Yep.
stay on the mat,
Yep.
just keep showing up. If you just keep showing up and do it because you gotta, because it's in you. I wish I had found a way to keep that, and I wish I'd been a better business person.
Well, that's yet a whole other skill set that many
Exactly.
people in the arts do not have, or just didn't get trained in, or had no interest in, one of those things. And you hear about people that get taken advantage of all the time by unscrupulous individuals who do know that kind of stuff. And hopefully you can find somebody to help you along the way. I mean,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
if it's not your thing, and
Right.
And some do. I do think it's interesting that there was this marvelous institution for a long time called vaudeville, where people could work themselves out and perform in front of crowds.
Yeah.
And that went away, and it got really hard for people to find something like it. And now we have not vaudeville, but in a weird way, a kind of vaudeville, which is the internet, where everything's out there.
Yes.
And now you
I
can
love that.
you can perform, and you can put it in front of people, and they can give you feedback. Now, it's not exactly the same as being in front of a live audience, but
Right.
nevertheless, there is feedback. You get criticism and thoughts and all the rest of it. All right. So when you're preparing material for your shows, do you select that material thinking about the audience, or are you selecting it for yourself?
Kind of both, but mostly for myself. It's what do I want to express? Because chances are, my demographic especially, is going to dig it.
You feel like your take on the world is reflective in the audience's world.
I do. And yeah, I don't give, maybe I don't give enough thought to, who's gonna dig this? Because when I was in high school and starting to sing, I would just go to like the student council and say, hey, you want me to do a concert and we can raise some money for prom? I mean, I don't know. I just thought, well, what if you put this with this and sort of, and I also had, a mom who was in the business, and she was just sort of like, I mean, some days it was, shine, Louise, and other days it was like, yeah, you can do this. You can, I'll take you here and take you there. And, I was about 12, and my mom had gone back into the theater after my dad died, and she would take me with her. She would often take us kids, because we didn't have a babysitter. She would take us to the theater with her, but she would take me to a piano bar on Rush Street called Punchinello's.
Right.
I was about 12 years old. And Sammy Sadler was the pianist, and she would sing, and there were these tall women with huge hair and lots of makeup, and everybody was talking theater. And it was like, cool. How great is this? And then, and then we drive back out to Crystal Lake, and it was a different world. It was a different experience.
Sure.
But the marvelous theater that I was exposed to as a kid just really set my thermostat, I think, at a really good place. Later in life, though, when I had to reset my thermostat and go back or go forward, or what do I do now? And the business changes, and then am I gonna audition? Am I gonna just keep doing? It's big.
And you have to sometimes find your way through that slight fog of what is it, and that's what it sounds like it happened for you, is you had to sort of find your way to where you wanted to be.
Absolutely.
As opposed to it just being obvious. It wasn't obvious at all to you.
Every now and then it was really clear. Like when I joined Four Bitchin' Babes, I had just met my husband. and we got engaged. I don't know, I just met my husband to be, and I got a call from Chris Lavin saying, hey, Christine Lavin, who I had met in 1977 in Aspen, Colorado, and she had heard my first wooden nickel LP. A friend of hers she was stuck in his apartment in Florida on a rainy day, and she was going through his albums, and she put this album on. She said, I stopped playing anything else. I just kept listening to this album. And I was like so touched.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm singing at Richard's at the Jerome Hotel downstairs in the club. And Chris Lavin is in Aspen opening for Asleep at the Wheel. And she and her boyfriend are walking past the Jerome, and they see my picture, and she goes, it can't be the same girl. She said, we gotta go in. Sure enough, she sits down. There's hardly anybody in this club, you know. It's the summer, it's the winter of no snow, so there's not people there. Anyway, she starts requesting songs from my first LP, and I'm like, this person is not a sibling of mine. Who could? So I met her after she introduced herself after the show. We're both Irish Catholic girls from families of 9 kids. You know, we're both folk singers. She's in New York. I was in LA or in Chicago for years. And we just hit it off beautifully. Fast forward to 1980, gosh, this was 88, 89. And she says, Meg, I've got some carpal tunnel weirdness going on, and I got this string of California gigs. How about if you come along on tour? Sally Fingerette and Patty Larkin are also coming. We'll just go and and you guys can, you know, join me on stage. This was the birth of the Babes, you know.
Wow.
This is the Four Bitchin' Babes. And God, Steve, we lost our shirts. We lost our blouses on that tour. I mean, because Chris was, you know.
That should have brought you lots of money.
Later on, actually, we made some money, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We were at the Birchmere, and was it Billy Wolf? The sound man put a DAT recorder in and recorded our set that Rounder just thought was splendid. They released Buy Me, Bring Me, Take Me, Don't Mess My Hair, Four Bitchin' Babes live at the Birchmere. That really took off. And there were 5 more albums with the Babes after that. I toured with them for, 12, 13 years.
Wow. So, all right. So when you have a new song that you're going to develop, whether for the Four Bitchin' Babes or on your own, and this is a song, it's either an established, well-known standard, or it's something you've written brand new, nobody's ever heard before. What is your routine to develop that song as a singer? What do you go through? How do you think your way through that?
2 stories come to mind. This happening really taught me a great lesson. Do you co-write?
All the time.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I came to co-writing early on in the 70s. I started writing with my friend Tom Bishop. And every now and then I co-write. And it's always quite an experience. But I was invited to a songwriting retreat in May, several years ago, in Scottsdale by the Empower Music and Arts family that I know. They're New Thought singer-songwriters and really great artists, really good songwriters. And they said, we want to get together and write Christmas songs, holiday songs, winter songs.
Sure.
And it's May. So, and Sue Riley, brilliant boss of a person, would put it all together. She puts the retreat together. She and Richard McDonough put the retreat together, and then she has a whole schedule of who you're going to write with at what time. So it was like very cool. So one day I look at the schedule, and at 1 o'clock I'm going to write with J.D. Martin. Now J.D. Martin and his wife Jan Garrett, badass singer-songwriters,
right.
Just fantastic. JD spent many years in Nashville and is a splendid songwriter. Here's my thought. Shit, I better really have a good idea and a good song before I even get in the room with JT.
Sure.
Now this is ego talk. This is sort of, and it's sort of shame talk of whatever I don't know. I don't want you to know that I don't know. So I'm just going to make something up. Okay. Because I don't want you to know that I don't know, but I don't know. So I get to the session and I'm nervous and I say, so I've got this idea, and he goes, oh, okay, cool. What do you got? And I play it for him and he goes, well, that's really good. But why don't we just like talk and see what's going on? And so I said, well, he says, how's your life? I go, shit, I'm going through a divorce. And he said, oh God, I've been there. And the song that came out of that conversation is one of the best songs I've ever written. And
wow.
sung.
Wow.
Yeah. I will send it to you when
it came from a real place. So it came from reality.
Came from a real place that I didn't see coming.
Well, it might have been that you were trying not to see it at that moment.
Yeah. And so when I teach songwriting, I say, just start with an empty, just start with Zen mind, beginner mind. Don't let it come to you. And any idea, we'll do some object writing, or or we'll take Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and rewrite, once you know the parameters, once you know what you need, the syllables, etc., and the melody, write different lyrics. Okay, there's a way to prime the pump. But so that's over here. There will be a time when a line will come to me, and it doesn't always happen. But if I'm doing something else, if I'm in the moment, then it might come. If I don't catch it, like Steve, have you read this book, or do you know this book, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert?
No, don't know that book.
Oh, I didn't either.
Big Magic.
Big Magic. She talks about how grabbing the idea and working with it, because she talks about the poet, I wish I could remember her name, who got the thought and was running to the house to her pen, as the thought of the poem was just about to pass her by.
Right.
That you have to grab when it comes and write it down. Don't think you're going to remember it, because you're not.
Do you carry some form of recording device with you?
I do. My phone.
Your phone.
Yeah, I put it on my phone now.
Prior to having the cell with you, what did you do? Did you carry paper?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Paper, or, constantly, repeating it, getting it in, getting home, getting it down.
Because if you don't get it down, it's going to go away for most people, unless you have a perfect memory.
Right. It is a mystical experience every time, even when I'm working at it. Even I wrote a song called God Spoils Me, based on a story told to me by this woman, Paula Ryan. Great story. That inspired me to write this song. And I was with NSAI, Nashville Singer-Songwriters Association, and they, at a time where they would critique your songs.
Sure.
So I sent it in, and they had an idea, and I sent it in. About the fourth time, I thought, damn, I've never worked so hard on a song in my life. Just one, just moving this here, not taking this out because I don't know that. Again, it was Nashville. I don't know. I just have a lot of respect for that kind of work. the hard work that comes with crafting a song, because a lot of my songs were just close enough. Maybe if I had worked on them, but again, it wasn't till I was like advanced and was doing more of it that I got that feeling. You know that feeling.
Which comes first for you usually? Music, lyrics, hook? What
Yeah,
usually comes?
The line,
The hook.
Yeah, the hook.
And once you have that, then suddenly the music will come along with it.
Yeah.
And from that, then come the full lyrics.
Right.
You're not, you don't tend to write like you did when you were writing poetry. You don't tend to
Right.
write the whole lyric out and
Right.
then try to fit the music to it.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
that's always a mystery. When I was working on Jekyll and Hyde, it was always music first. That's just the way that Frank worked.
Yes.
Always music first. And sometimes it came off a hook and sometimes it just came off of wherever he was at that moment.
Yes.
So creating music requires both mental and physical skills and an artistic understanding, but
Yeah.
it's mainly about, I think, passion and creating emotion. It's about emotion. How do you tap into your emotional core? What do you do? Is there anything that you do, or do you just let it come as may?
No, because a lot of times, and this, I think this can really put a governor on your creativity.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I didn't want to be overwhelmed by feelings. So I compartmentalized, instead of letting it come up whenever I said, I'm not ready to really go there. What I love about your situation is that your divine appointment with Frank was, I wish I'd been a better musician, because I feel like I had to sort of play catch up with the music to the lyrics. I think I'm a lyricist first and a musician second. And I feel good about the connections I've made. But a lot of times, if I'm not ready to really go deep into something, and how deep do I have to go? A song, I will let a song pass me by. I will let.
Do you ever come back to it?
Every now and then. And it's interesting. I've been working on one for a couple months. It's so close and it's really good. And I keep going back to it, and I keep trying to, it's like holding a bird. I don't want to hold it so tightly that I harm it, but I don't want to hold it so loosely that it flies away.
Right.
There's that, it's almost finished, but gosh, I think, is it gone? Darn it. Did I not pay it enough attention? Did I blow it? And then I was like, oh, calm down. This is your song.
And it's not a science. You have to feel it. You have to feel that it's right or not. And sometimes you feel like, oh, that's finished. There's no more to do to it. And sometimes you feel like there's something else not quite right here.
And what do you do? What do you do?
Keep working.
Darn it.
You just keep working it. I don't think you can always abandon something, but I think there's no substitute for when you don't think it's right to keep working it. That, of course, calls up the question of collaboration. You've collaborated with people, and you know that sometimes you have to compromise in a collaborative setting where it isn't what you think is 100% right.
Right?
Yeah, well, that's just the nature of collaboration is that there's an aspect of compromise to it.
And trust.
Well, I certainly trust, otherwise you'd have nothing. But, sometimes you don't get 100% of what you want when you're working with others. When you're on your own, like when you write a song wholly yourself, then
that's true.
You get to write it exactly the way you want it, and it doesn't come out to show to anybody until you're ready.
Yes. That's true.
So when you're actually preparing to do a gig, what is it you go through aside from you've now developed the programming of the show? I'm going to sing these songs in this order. and it's going to be in this genre of songs. You're now going to do the 60s, 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever you've decided is the thrust of the show. What do you then do? How do you prepare yourself? Do you go into serious rehearsal on your voice? Do you go into arranging music? What is it you do?
I first make a set list,
So you
and
program the evening.
I program the evening, and I'll go through the songs, and I'll just be marking the first, rehearsal.
Mhm.
I'll just mark to go easy on my voice.
Right.
Then I'll warm up. But I won't, again, it's the bird.
You don't want to squeeze it to death.
Right. So I rehearse, I let it go. It's good. How do you feel? I rarely rehearse dialogue, because
Do you write it out? Do you know what you're going to say?
yeah, I have an outline.
But you're not memorizing script. You're not memorizing specific lines.
No, because every gig is going to be different, and it's going to have its own, what it wants me to say.
Do you enjoy doing that where you're sort of riffing or improvising?
I love improv. Love. It has from time to time gotten me into trouble, but hey, that's improv.
Well, if you're going to walk the tightrope, you're going to get into trouble every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's half the fun, right?
Well, sure it is. What is that your favorite thing about performing is the interaction with the audience?
Yes. Yeah. Right. And just being able to sing. Now, I don't know about you. At the beginning of the pandemic, I would say for about a year before the pandemic, I think I was trying to break up with my life, and I didn't know how.
Break up with your life?
I was like, oh my God, this is so boring. What the hell? I don't want to do this. I don't want to,
More than once in my life, I've thought if I could only get away from me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. And then the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, this is my chance.
It is. It was a great chance for people.
Sit down. Just sit down. There is nothing to figure out here. I did my last gig. It was a singer-songwriter gig with 3 other singer-songwriters. It was a fun gig in a new club in Chicago. And on March 13th, I was quarantined.
Yeah, that's how it worked. It was right in there.
Unbelievable. And a lot of my friends were like, man, you got to get on Instagram Live. You've got to get on Facebook. You've got to start doing some online concerts. And I'm like, my heart was saying, I'm not doing that.
You were in reset mode.
Oh, total reset. Total. And then John Prine passed, and it was like one of the only times I posted my singing Angel from Montgomery.
Right.
I was just like so sad, and that felt right. And I did a couple gigs for Unity service, Unity Church service, where they, I did the music for their service. But I got to tell you, man, I took a year and hit the reset button.
Did you keep singing though, even in private?
Yes, I a little bit.
You kept working your voice. You kept it lubricated.
My voice, but there were a couple months there where it was like, no, I had no. I'm sure I was depressed. I'm sure I was like everybody else. Like, what?
Well, we didn't know if we were ever going to come out of the backside of it. We still don't know. As we're having this interview today.
Exactly.
We still don't know whether we're coming out of the backside of it. It's having fits and spurts in terms of whether it's coming alive or not. And that just makes it very, very challenging. When you would take time off on singing or any of that kind of work, when you would start to sing a little bit, did you have any issues with your voice?
Oh,
Did you just,
gotcha.
you,
Yeah,
you
and
did?
that freaked me out. I'm like, oh, okay, Miss Sure of herself, you're gonna have, this is a gift. This is not for you. There's no playing around here, sister. This is a muscle.
It's a muscle, and you have to keep working the muscle.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you
Otherwise,
do.
the muscle goes flat.
And I taught voice over, I'm on faculty at the Music Institute of Chicago. I was teaching voice and songwriting. I want to tell you, there is nothing more frustrating than trying to teach voice via Zoom.
Oh, I would, I'm sure that's incredibly frustrating. I mean, I've taught a lot of writing via Zoom,
Right?
but I'm sure that it's really frustrating. But imagine trying to teach someone to be a director.
Oh, God.
You can't. I mean, it's almost impossible.
Wow. I'll tell you what, I have a friend, Jimmy Carrane, who had a really successful podcast called Improv Nerd. And Jimmy figured out a way. He's a great improv teacher, and I've taken his class a couple times. But, it comes from the Second City lineage, man, but he found a way to teach improv online.
Wow, nice.
I'm like, oh, brother, I'm not worthy. If you can teach improv online, man, you will rule the day.
Well, especially if you run into any kind of tech issues, because it's all about timing, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
hitting those times. Even in improv, you still have to have timing.
Exactly.
And clearly you have good timing, both in terms of music and in terms of delivery of lines. So,
Well, thank you. I have a passion for, I would say it's right up there with singing, is comedy, improv. It's
do you think about it, or do you just do it?
No, I try, because if I think about it, oh God, it's horrible.
Yeah,
It's horrible.
It is. I mean, obviously you have to be able to write and tell a joke, which many people can do, but many, many more can't. And you still have to understand how it works somewhat, even if you don't have it academically in mind.
And that is heart-centered as well as noggin, that's really the what I call the divine intersection, between head and heart is your voice. But and don't you find, and you probably tell your students this, Steve, that oh man, to get out of your head, but to stay present, that's the,
well, that's everything in terms of performance, for sure, is being present and in the moment. And yeah, it's really hard when people get caught up in their own heads. When I get caught up in my own head, it's a problem.
it's an inevitable. And how are you during the early days of the pandemic creatively? I mean, how did you?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Well, of course, this is not my episode, but suffice to say, I actually got locked. I got locked up. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't read. I couldn't think. I was barely able to just sit there and watch TV. And I, pottered and roamed around, but I was locked up creatively. And then slowly over time, I kicked myself back out of it. But you have to have that. Here's what it is. I think you have to have, if you're going to be successful in the arts, any part of the arts, you have to have a certain amount of self-discipline. And if you don't have that self-discipline, no one is going to provide it for you. And so it's imperative that you have motivation, that you want to do it, that you enjoy doing it, and that you feel motivated to kick yourself into gear, so to speak.
Right.
Without it, I think you may as well think about some other career.
Because you won't be happy. What I loved about, I mean, you might not be happy.
Well, you could certainly be successful and unhappy. That's for sure.
Oh gosh, yes. And you could be successful and happy.
Both, certainly.
It can happen. Another thing I loved about
You can also, by the way, be, not to interrupt you, but to be a total failure and be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Happiness is from somewhere, some slightly
Oh.
different place.
Man, it's an inside job, isn't it?
To say
What I
the least.
love about Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, also is she made a vow to her craft, to her writing. She wanted to be a writer right from Jump Street. She was like, I'm gonna write. I'm here to write. I wish I'd read this years ago, but she made a vow to her craft. I will never make you support me. I will always support you. I will never whip you to financially support me. I'm like,
Of the craft itself, you mean?
right, right. She said, because she knew a writer who said, listen, I'm out. I can't take the rejection. I think I'm really good, and I'm done. I can't take the depression. And she said, can I swear?
Sure, go for it.
So she says, it's kind of like a shit sandwich. She said, you've got to pick your shit sandwich, like how much of it and which one you're going to eat. She said, when he said, I'm out, I can't take it anymore. I can't take the rejection. I can't take the depression. I'm out. I think I'm good, but I'm done. It's as if she said, it's as if his sandwich was sitting there and she was about to say, are you going to finish that? Because if you don't want to, I will. That's the kind of commitment she was willing to make.
Mm-hmm.
To say she had been a bartender, she had been a waitress, she had been a ranch cook, a ranch hand, because she didn't want to resent her craft. I'm like, oh my God, the times I was like, damn, I gotta get some money up in here, and I gotta take jobs, and I maybe, instead of, well, like, wait a minute, what would it be? Just then get a gig. But see, this is what I meant in the beginning. I wish I'd known this may not pay the bills every day. So Christine Lavin, perfect example. The woman is a typing banshee. And she's really bright. She went to school. She got a job when she moved to New York. She got a job at Bellevue, I think, and sang at night. Sang in a little Mexican restaurant on Columbus Avenue, in the evenings. But she had a day job. I'm not saying it can't always support you financially, but if you're going to worry about the money, then it's going to take a lot of mental energy, and you'll get really discouraged if you're expecting your art to feed you. If you, maybe just for a week, don't go with with an open hands, like, to your craft. Maybe just do it just to do it, and not.
Well, I've told many people many times, it's not for the faint of heart or the weakest stomach. It's a very difficult industry, and unless you come already saddled with immense resources, you're probably going to go through what many people go through, which is a struggle of some kind to support yourself. You have to have it within your being to do that. And otherwise you get the same reaction that you heard, which is, I can't handle this anymore. I'm quitting.
You do it.
And the only people that really fail, are the ones who give up. And the ones who succeed are always the ones that stick it out. And that's a glittering generality, but it's more or less true. People who stick it
I
out,
agree.
generally speaking, get somewhere because they have passion for it and they want to keep doing it.
And Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Eat, Pray, Love, was a pretty big success.
Yeah.
And, she didn't have to wait on tables then, but the willingness, I'm sorry, my ex-husband, God love him, was a business person. He when he saw my pay stub from Always Patsy Cline,
Yeah.
He said, Megan, this is what they pay you for 8 shows a week, 23, not 23 songs, but 23 sections
Right.
of singing, he said that he did the math. He said, this is the equivalent of 2 seats sold a night. He said, and I said, honey, get out of the business he was in and go into entertainment law, because we need you. We go into entertainment management. But if you don't understand the business, it's almost like trying to tell a stranger about rock and roll. It's just, you don't do it for the money, and yet you need to earn money, and you need to know what you're worth and what the market will bear is a very difficult piece of information to get, I think, in the performing
Well,
arts.
I think anybody that goes into the arts for the money has made an error, because the money may come. You do it
Yes.
because you love it and because it's what you do and because you wish to express yourself. Otherwise, I think you might be on a fool's errand, because the chances of your becoming wealthy in the entertainment industry is actually quite small. Some people can figure out how to get super rich. Some people can figure out how to make a living at it, but most people are nibbling around the edges and sometimes making nothing. So you got to want to do it. It's not, and by the way, nobody forces you to do it. It's not like
gosh, no.
you're not enslaved to it. So if it's not for you, it's not for you. But if it is for you, then you can't think about the money part of it. Other than if you're going to earn a living, you're going to make those efforts, but it's not why you do it.
It is really, that's difficult to wrap your mind around for a lot of people.
It is.
A lot of people.
I have been speaking to the divine Megon McDonough for the last hour and 10 minutes, and we're going to sort of wind this thing toward the conclusion. And so I'm just wondering, in all of your experiences in the business of show, can you share with us a story that's either quirky or offbeat, weird, strange, or maybe just plain funny?
Yes. So the story that comes to mind is a manifestation story of bringing something into my experience that I really wanted and didn't even know I wanted it. When I was 14, I was Cher.
You were Cher?
I was Cher. I wore my hair long, and I was a little, lots of black eyeliner. I looked like Cousin It, but I was Cher, Steve. And I would, like sing like her, and oh, Cher. And I loved Cher. I just thought she was the coolest, and I wanted to be her. So I was 15, and I had won the Big Break contest, and I had gotten a lot of press. And so I got a call from Sig Sakowitz. Now, Sig Sakowitz was a big radio personality in Chicago. And he said, we're taking a tour, a USO tour to Vietnam, and wanted to know if you would like to go. And I'm like, I got to check with my mom. Yeah, I can go. Yeah, no problem. So he said, okay, come down to my office on Thursday, and we're going to have a meeting about how this will go and what you need to do, and I needed to get some shots and stuff. So my mom took me down to Sig's office, and we're sitting there, and we're talking to Sig about the he said, oh, a couple people who are on the tour are going to stop by there in town, for a concert. We're sitting there, and in walks Sonny and Cher.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, oh my God. It was a kind of not in your body experience.
Yes.
But I'm like, sure, I know it's like looking in the mirror, right? I mean, it's amazing. So we mumbled our hellos, and it was just so unbelievable. And then I went home. I was like high for days. I had met my hero. And then I get a call 2 weeks before we were supposed to go. I'd gotten my shots. I was ready to go. And SIG's office called and said, we're so sorry. No one under 18 years of age can go to Vietnam. So I was off the tour and I never saw Cher again.
Oh,
But I'm telling you, same thing happened to me years later. I'm recording for Wood and Nickel. I'm living in California. My first album is released. I go to see John Denver at the Troubadour with Jerry Weintraub, our manager, and some other people. And I think, oh, wow, really good, man. Peace and love and folk music and granola. And then I went home for Christmas. I went back to Crystal Lake from California. And I'm sorry, I got to back up. I went on tour to promote my first album with Wood Nickel, and a friend of ours, I was in Denver, and a friend of ours was going to school there. Picked my sister and I, who my sister was traveling with me at the time as my road manager, took us to Red Rocks Park, and if you've ever been to Red Rocks Park, it's a glorious amphitheater, and many name acts play there.
right.
And so, but during the day, you can't get on the stage, but you can stand on the lip of the stage because it's all closed off. And you can look out, and I climb up there in my cowboy boots and I turn around. And Steve, this wish flies out of my heart. I would like to play here one day. You know, it was just like one of those amazing wishes. So about 6 months later, I'm at home, and I get a call from my manager. You're going on tour with John Denver.
Wow.
Okay. One of the places we played was Red Rocks Park.
Yeah, sure.
And for him at Red Rocks Park, I did my set. I walked off stage. John walked on, started playing this song, Eagle and the Hawk. And the audience, of course, it's Denver, for God's sakes. The audience is going crazy. And a shooting star arcs over the stage. I'm like, okay, I get it. Having those wishes, having those, having just that desire to, oh, I would like to do that. Or, oh, I would like to meet so-and-so. Doesn't always happen, but it comes from a different place than when I lost on Star Search in 1980 something by a half a star, because I wanted to go on and but I could win. And it was like all from here and not from here.
Yeah, up from the head and not from the heart.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you visualized playing Red Rocks, you saw it, and then you got that visualization to come through. Sometimes that's a very important aspect of success, is visualizing where you're going to go.
I love the Michael Beckwith quote, "We are pushed by fear or pulled by a vision."
Wow, that's very good.
Yeah, a vision is really important.
And a good vision is even more important.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And yeah, a spiritual vision of the 4 questions. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? Because it kind of circles back to that. Listen, it can do no more for me than it can do through me.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I think I'm doing it, gosh, it'll be okay. And it might be actually good, but it's not going to have the special sauce.
I agree. Last question for you today, Megan. Do you have a solid piece of advice or a tip for those who are just starting out in the industry in today's world, or perhaps they're in a little bit and trying to get to that next level?
Ask for help. Don't do it alone. Don't go rogue. I know you want to because you're smart, but ask for help and don't do it alone. And thirdly, I've got to say, just what we were talking about, know where the money is, have a vision, have a solid vision of where you want to go, and then have a plan. And most of all, know where the money is, how much it's going to take to fund your vision, and just be really mindful of the vision, and ask yourself this question: is this gig, is this move, is this in alignment with what I think I'm here to do? And is it in the direction of my vision?
That's great. That's really great, because that then sets you on a course.
Right?
And
a
with-
plan. Have a
and
plan.
and you need to have thoughts about the next thing, or the next 2 steps, or the next 3 steps, some kind of a plan. Because if you're just free forming it, sometimes you're just all over the map.
And be going someplace. You know, in your teaching, I'm sure you've experienced this. Your character has to be coming from somewhere and going somewhere. If you have a gig, my sister teaches acting in DC and on the East Coast, and she says after an audition, oh please God, let those come back. But after an audition, have somewhere to go, because if your audition is like just the thing, like, because that's fear, that's your fear vibration. But if it's like, you're going to go to the audition, and then you're going to meet a friend at Starbucks for coffee, and then you're going to go home and work on your, and do your laundry. Have somewhere, have a destination. Don't make the audition, gotta have, because you'll get stuck. Hold it lightly, take it easy, be in the moment, be in your body, take a breath. So go back to the breath. You're good.
Well, that's great, because your motivation has got to be just going out and doing it, not having an expectation.
Yeah, man, because you know what they say about expectations? They're just resentments on the back burner.
Ooh.
They're just an expectation is always a resentment waiting to come on in, and nothing holds me back more than a resentment, or holding that unforgiveness towards self or others. Let yourself off the hook, man. You're okay. It's okay. It's okay. You burn the toast. That's okay.
Do the work for the work.
Yeah. And don't make it everything. I was doing it for so long, since I was a kid, that it became overdeveloped. I didn't develop other things. Oh, take it all in, I love the Jean Houston, the great activist mystic, said, she was a great cook, but she really needed to start writing, and started to write books, and she wanted to, but she was not very good at it. And she thought, what am I really good at? She was a great cook. She's a phenomenal Italian cook. She thought, I'm going to take my cook to the typewriter. I'm going to take something that you feel really solid in, to something new, to like you would take, your work, Steve, to, I don't know, forestry, gardening, something that, what do you want to do in Pittsburgh?
Trust me, it's not forestry. I like looking at trees. I don't want anything to do with taking care of them.
I like trees too, man. I like trees too.
They're a necessary and wonderful part of the world.
Yeah.
So I have been speaking now for almost an hour and 20 minutes to Megon McDonough, and I just think this has been just a terrific StoryBeat episode, in which we have explored so many aspects of the industry and how a person can develop a career. And I think that it's very instructive, and I can't thank you enough for joining me today on the show.
Thank you, my friend. It's been really fun. Thank you.
As promised, we have a real treat for you. So won't you please sit back and enjoy now Megon's beautiful angelic song, Breathe.
I breathe. that's the right place to start. I breathe, just breathe. I breathe in to be. I breathe out and see what is true, right and real. I'm alive, I am healed. I breathe, just breathe. Here in this moment, if I'm in the flow, here in this moment, I let go. Each blade of grass has an angel leading over, whispering, grow, 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 grow. I breathe in and know. I breathe out and let go. Here in my heart, that's the right place to start. I breathe, just breathe. I breathe, just
And so we've come to the end of today's Story Beat. If you like this episode, won't you please take a moment to give us a comment, rating, or review on whatever app or platform you're listening to. Your support helps us bring more great StoryBeat episodes to you. StoryBeat is available on all major podcast apps and platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, and many others. Until next time, I'm Steve Cuden, and may all your stories be unforgettable.